Welcome back to the Theatres of Dreams podcast brought to you by RadioAlty and Altrincham Community Media. My name is Tom Jolley, the host of the Soundtrack to Sport 12 to 1 every Saturday. I'm joined by one man and one man only. He never needs an introduction, but we give him one anyway. It's Rod Maxwell, the host of the Late Late Lunch Show, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 till 4. How are you, fella?
You're too kind. Well, I'm good. I'm good. And nothing like a good start for your team to give you a bit of confidence into a weekend and Friday night football as well. And a late goal, late show, I'll tell you. But yeah, not bad, not bad. Interesting weekend of football, Tom, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of different briefs for different people at the minute on tactical breakdowns and different sort of manager watches and player transfers and things like that. But there's nothing like having football back, is there?
Oh, I mean, actually, you realize how much you miss it and how much you structure your week around football.
I mean, I said to my mum the other day, my well-being is so much far superior when the football's on. It really is.
Despite
Because
the results.
yeah, even then, because you have something to look forward to. Whereas I know we had the Euros in the summer, but we've had 4 or 5 weeks now of just sort of dead silence around everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Unless you're really invested in pre-season, which I'm not really. I don't really think you can tell much from pre-season because it's literally just players getting fit. You just waiting for that August 14th weekend, August 15th weekend where football returns.
I was walking down to Old Trafford on Friday night, and there was that tingle of excitement and trepidation in a way. And the one thing I always look for is what's changed. What have they done anything different? And I couldn't really see that much. I know the tunnel's been done, but
It
but
looks lovely, that though. It does look good.
it looks fantastic. And if that's any sign of what they can do in the future, that'd be great. But you look also at the new players and you see old faces back again, and you have a chat and you have a pint. And I was there with my son and one of his mates, and it's just that thing of that feeling of walking down to Old Trafford.
There's
Uh,
nothing like it.
Nothing like it. Football is, it's just great, isn't it? Despite the results. But what did you make of the opening weekend then?
Well, it wasn't breathtaking. We've had better opening weekends, but that's not so I'm disappointed by it. I think there was a few standout performances by a few teams. Brighton in particular really caught my eye. I think Brighton's manager, obviously youngest Premier League manager ever at 31, Fabian Hürzeler. James Milner made his Premier League when he James Milner made his Premier League debut. The Brighton manager, I want to say, was around 6 years old. There's some sort of age statistic. I'm sorry if I've not got that spot on, but I mean, you're looking at the Brighton manager, 31 years old, actually young on the other team, 6 years older than him, 7, 8 years older than him. He obviously got the red card. I think Brighton were superb. I think Minter, I'm sure we'll get on some players who we're going to sort of keep an eye on throughout the season. Minter was the big one for me, who stood out over the weekend. Ipswich, newcomers to the Premier League after back-to-back promotions. I think 7 of the starting 11 that faced Liverpool on the opening day last weekend started their opening day fixture in League One against Exeter 2 years ago.
And actually on that particular tie, I mean, my impression was Ipswich looked reasonably, fitness was good. They pressed quite systematically. It's a big thing to play Liverpool, especially as your first game back in the Prem. I thought all's not lost for them. I think they looked reasonably decent.
As much as Liverpool had 6 big chances created and Ipswich had 0, they did have that one chance in the first half where you thought, oh, if he puts that away. Unfortunately for them, Alisson made save. But I was really intrigued with the way they played. I think the man-to-man marking is really sort of the same as you look at the Blackpool team that came up into the Prem. You look at Leeds when they came into the Prem. It looks to me as if Kieran McKenna are trying to take little bits from teams who stayed up here and there and try and forge them into one. I think if they keep going, I mean, every team has a chance. It's the Premier League. Every game's a tough game. But I think you look at that and go, the signing of Sammy Schmodix from Blackburn is a really, really big one. I think they've got Calvin Phillips through the door now as well, which is good.
Yes.
So, I think they could definitely kick on and be fighting definitely this season.
Gotta say, Calvin Phillips is turning out to be a bit of a journeyman with in his early years. I mean, he's had successful clubs over successive seasons, hasn't he?
I mean, he was at Leeds and they obviously got promoted with him, had a little good run in the Premier League. Then he moved to Manchester City. I mean, he won what, 2 Premier League titles in the Champions League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, or whatever in 2 years. And then you look at this year, he's going to Ipswich on loan. I I mean, we'll get on to what's going on at Manchester City in a moment with their transfers because a certain German's come back to the club this morning. But
Interesting.
overall, I don't know if they're going to miss him. I don't know if they're not. I feel like they definitely need cover for Rodri, but We'll talk about that in a little
We'll
while.
we'll
But,
we'll
we'll
do
go through some of the other ones.
we'll do a player watch. We'll do a gaffer watch as well, and we'll have a look at transfers and maybe some of the keeper watches as well. Just going on through some of the fixtures. So the weekend started with an interesting game at Old Trafford. It was Cirksey to the rescue. It was a bit of a Fergie time winner.
Well,
Uh,
it was Ruud van Nistelrooy-esque against Fulham on his debut, wasn't it? And he was on the bench watching on as another Dutchman scores a late winner. So, realistically, I was happy with the performance. I don't understand the fact that people were belating us to be very, very poor. I think we dominated the game, to be honest. I think
yeah,
possession-wise, XG-wise, stats-wise, on paper, you'd have expected, right, that's 1-0, but they've missed a lot of chances. And in the first half, we did miss a lot of chances. I can
yeah.
count 4 or 5 chances for Bruno Fernandes in particular. I was really impressed with Mason Mount in the midfield and the new system that we saw with that sort of 4-2-2 in a sense. I think those who play FIFA know that more of a formation than we'd see in the modern game nowadays. But overall, I'm optimistic anyway, but it's great to start off with a win, isn't it?
I actually came away thinking I could see a system. I could see discipline in the system as well. We had strength in depth on the bench coming off the bench as well. I thought the new right back, I forget his name, was
He was superb. I think he really helps. I think him on the ball is such a big improvement for Wan-Bissaka. The
yeah.
way he steps in, we saw him as soon as I think within the first 5 minutes, you saw the way Ten Hag wants to build up in possession. You saw that sort of two or three at the back, and then you've got the two in front of them, and then you've basically got five in front of them. And that was the way you wanted to build up. You saw Mazraoui and Delo really pushing into the half spaces too, sort of really high up number 10s, which then allowed Rashford and Ahmad to go really wide, and Bruno or Mount interchanges that focal point up front before we brought Xerxes on. And I think I was really impressed with him. Lissandro Martinez on the ball. How much did we miss him last season towards the end? I mean,
Yeah.
he playing through the lines. We can't do it without the Argentinian, can we? I don't know if
No.
it's because he's a little bit smaller and he's a little bit lower to the ground, so he can see everything a little bit better or not. But he is superb. I mean, you always worry when you come up against any team that has a Dharma Traore in, but the first 5 minutes worried me, but I think he did quite well. Obviously, we mentioned Ipswich; they lost 2-0 at home to Liverpool, but Kieran McKenna's side have always got something to build on from that. Arsenal continuing where they left off from last season, 2-0 at home to Wolves. Wolves, I was really disappointed with. I think Gary O'Neill could be on that manager shortlist of ones to go early in the season, to be honest.
What was the final score in the Arsenal game? It was
It was
2-0, wasn't it?
2-0.
Yeah, yeah. I saw the goal from who was it? From Saka. It was a nice goal.
Yeah, I think I was really impressed with Saka. I think the combinations between Saka and Havertz throughout the whole 90 minutes were superb. But I think that could be the key to lifting the title for them this season. As much as everyone on social media all across the world debated, is Havertz a proper number 9? I mean, he's had a brilliant year. He had a brilliant year last year. His best ever season. He had a brilliant Euros with Germany, and it wouldn't surprise me if it doesn't surprise me that Mikel Arteta loves to have the German up front.
And I thought that Raya save, I forget who it was to, when it was 1-0, was a big save. A
Yeah, it
match
was the
winning
header,
save.
wasn't it? From when they cross, it was the cross. I can't remember the striker's name, but it's the Wanky Chan cross into the box, and it's a brilliant save from David Ryan. He made a couple as well. I mean, there was. By the way, I mean Joe Hart on Match of the Day was brilliant as well that weekend, and having some little bit goalkeeper insight into how some of the saves. But you see on half of the saves that David Ryan makes, his body's already going one way, and then he has to save the other. So I thought he was superb. The only draw of the weekend, which was a little bit of a surprising one. Nottingham Forest 1, Bournemouth 1. These are two teams I was a little bit worried for towards the start of the season, but both of them, they seem to look like they can cope very well at the top flight again. Danilo was the big injury, wasn't it? He broke his
Oh,
ankle, but he's going to be back in 6 weeks.
no, really?
Yeah, so it turns out he only had a minor injury, but it was just that much pain at the time that he couldn't walk on it. So, but Nottingham Forest released a statement just sort of 2 days after the game saying he's going to have minor ankle surgery and he'll be back within 6 to 8 weeks. So it's
I,
not the season-ended injury that we all thought it was.
I gotta say, I felt for him because you sort of think opening with the match.
And it
Uh,
wasn't even like he played it more than 10 minutes, wasn't it? It was like, what, 40 minutes
no,
of the game and he'd gone down.
I really felt for him, but that's absolutely great news. But 1-1 there, that's actually not a bad start for Forest. You know, you want to win your home games, but when you just come up and you're playing against a team that's established in the Premier League like Bournemouth, it was a level game. I watched Match Today over the weekend. By the way, it's 60 years of age. I can't believe that.
I know.
Unbelievable. And I watched it over the weekend, and I thought it was good value again, just to get a sense of what's going on across the Premier League at least. The West Ham Villa game, even though Villa won that game, I thought it was 50-50 a lot in the
Yeah, I
stats.
think West Ham's new signings are really going to help them this season. If they can keep Kudus fit, I think West Ham will be in that fight for that sixth, seventh, eighth position. I really do. I think the only thing you could see that West Ham missed was a striker. And funnily enough, the man who scored the winning goal for Villa was about to sign for West Ham 2 weeks ago. And that's why his celebration was like, I'm going to keep a little bit conservative from this one. But John Duran, brilliant finish to score the winner for Aston Villa. And Unai Emery kicking off a season very, very well again. It's just what the Spaniard does, isn't it?
And I don't know whether it was Villa's first goal or second goal, but I've written here nice team goal for Villa. I think there was a lot of
the reason they won was their passing was superb. I mean, John McGinn, what more can you say about that man? I mean, he's so underrated when it comes to Premier League midfielders. Newcastle won, Southampton 0. This was 10 men for Newcastle, but this is one of the most cagiest games gone, in my opinion, decisions I've ever seen for a red card. Fabian Schär sent off for a suspected headbutt against Ben Brereton Diaz, new signing for the Saints. But they've both done the exact same thing. If anything, if you send Schär off, the minimum you have to do to Diaz is send him off again, or give him a yellow card for dissent and not send Schär off, because the way he went down was absolutely embarrassing.
Yeah, it was. It really wasn't. I mean, that was on 60 minutes. They played for 30 minutes with 10 men. I don't know when they got their goal. But from Joe Linton, but to hold out, they did well, because that could have been very costly, that red card.
Yeah, I know it was in a sense, but I think I was quite impressed with Southampton. I think if they play like they did at the weekend, they just need to get one of those big chances, just net one of those big chances. They've got more than a fighting chance, Russell Martin's team, to stay up. I think Russell Martin's a manager that I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on throughout the season, who is one that, even if the Saints go down, it wouldn't surprise me if he's one that does stay in the Premier League.
Yeah, I've written here the second half statistics show how much pressure on Newcastle were under in the second half,
But
so
defensively, they were superb. They've got that passion, that fight back that they didn't have towards the end of last season. And with no European football this year, could Newcastle go on, maybe have a domestic success this season? We get Europe again. Brighton 3, Everton 0. This was the game of the weekend for me. The game of the weekend. Brighton, Fabian Hersler, youngest manager ever in the Premier League, was absolutely superb. I was very, very impressed. I mean, they should have been 4. They had a disallowed goal as well. So, I mean, Ashley Young doing what Ashley Young does, the master of the dark arts, getting a red card once again. But, Brighton, they have a really young, expansive team. They have such depth out wide as well, which I'm really impressed with. And, Minter is definitely one to watch. I mean, he lit up the Eredivisie last year at PSV. And I think this year, Brighton could be back up where they probably think they belong now. They've had that success with Robert De Zerbi over the last few years. And Fabian Hersler, as much as there was speculation of how a young manager would do, I was very, very impressed with him.
Do you know, Everton fans must be just thinking, "Oh, typical again," because they must dread the start of every season.
Well, you say that, but that's the heaviest defeat at Goodison this calendar year.
Is it really?
That's the heaviest defeat.
Yeah, but starting the season, they don't.
Well, yeah, even then, they did. Don't get me wrong, they don't tend to start seasons pretty well, but they tend to pick up form very, very quickly, don't they, towards the start of the campaign. I mean, we had the last few years. You look at Sean Dyche, Carlo Ancelotti as two to name a few that have sort of kicked on. I mean, Everton 3 years ago were top of the league at the end of October, weren't they? So we can't really say too much about that. Brentford 2, Crystal Palace 1. A disallowed goal, which was an absolute wonder goal from Eberechi today. When you can really see that Crystal Palace missed Michael Elise on the wing, who did assist I think his second touch of the game for Bayern Munich this week. Brentford, without Ivan Toney, Johan Wissa, Brian Mbeumo really causing trouble for Palace. I think even though Ivan Toney might not be gone, I think their biggest worry this season, with the Englishman departing or not, will be if they can keep hold of Thomas Frank.
Yes,
that's a really big one. The Super Sunday, as everyone calls it, Chelsea 0, Man City 2. Chelsea, what more can you say? I mean, we've had more news and more transfer news about them today, which, I mean, if you look at Sky Sports released statistic, didn't they, have years left on players' contracts. And I think they were 40 years or 50 years ahead of the team in second for their playing squad. I think Chelsea, you could see there was a style of play there. You could see what they were trying to do, but Manchester City do what Manchester City do. Erling Haaland there. I mean, Kovacic is his old stomping ground, scoring a brilliant goal. And then you do look at the bench on both teams and go, both teams have a really, really deep squad. I mean, Chelsea more than Manchester,
Oh,
I have to say, but both teams do have a deep squad. And you can see the way Chelsea wanted to play. I mean, Cole Palmer, as much as he's been brilliant last year and just picked up Young Player of the Year this week, for last season, he was just marked out the game completely. It looks to me that Chelsea need to sort of unlock that way of getting someone over the line that can provide that star factor. And you shouldn't really have to say that, but I mean, you look at the players that were on the pitch. I mean, they've just signed João Felix this morning from Barcelona. He was on loan there a couple of seasons ago. It wouldn't surprise me if you put him as the number 10, Cole Palmer on the right, and then Neto on the left, and then who they're going to play on that number 9 position. Is it going to be an Nkunku? Who's it going to be at that number 9 position? I don't know. And then you look at Manchester City. Without Rodri at the weekend, they've started a midfield three of De Bruyne, Kovacic, and Bernardo Silva, which is still world class, even without their best player in their middle of the park. But the transfer news coming out this morning with the here we go from Fabrizio Romano is that Ilkay Gundogan will return to the Etihad. And do you know what worries me the most about this? It's not that they need covering midfielders, it's that he scores so many goals in that really crucial part of the season towards February, March, April. And it wouldn't surprise me if that signing alone is what gets them over the line to a 5th Premier League title in a row.
It's quite amazing. I mean, there's a sort of saying, "Don't go back," and yet he's going to be going straight back after a season. And you were telling me off air that it's partly because of Barcelona's transfer financial situation.
Their financial situation. They can't even register players for their playing squad. I mean, I think this exit is what's going to facilitate the Dani Olmo move to Barcelona to make it sustainable. I mean, we know they need a player like Dani Olmo. They wanted Nico Williams from Athletic Bilbao, but he signed a new contract and been given the number 10 for them. So, you know, they're not going to get him. And I think the financial situation of Barcelona is very confusing, isn't it? A new stadium still being built, and then you know they're in a little bit of ruin. And then I tell you what, I really enjoyed Monday Night Football. Leicester
Well, just before we get on the Monday night, just finish off with City Chelsea. I'm just looking at this match stats. It was quite 50-50 for a lot of that game.
I mean, yes, Chelsea had their chances, didn't they? I mean, City do what City do and win just convincingly against any team ever, really, at the moment. But there's definitely signs in that Chelsea team that they can kick on this season. It can go one of two ways, can't it, at Stamford Bridge? They can go and get top 4 and have a brilliant season under new manager Enzo Maresca, or they could be 15th by January, Enzo Maresca out the door, new interim manager, and then finish 12th at the end of the season. So, you know, it's a very, very strange one. And then we'll get on to Monday Night Football, Rod.
Yeah.
Leicester 1, Tottenham 1. Having Jamie Vardy back in the Premier League, I love him. I'm not going to say what I think about him, but everyone knows the word and it ends with house is what I'm thinking for him. He is brilliant to have back in the league, isn't he? I mean, you see him necking Red Bulls before and after at half time of the game. I mean, he is just pure non-league player he's just brilliant. I think
37.
Yeah, and he's the key. He is that key for Steve Cooper to stay up in the league, I think. I mean, we see teams come up from the Championship. They don't have that experienced focal point up front and that experience. Jamie Vardy has that experience. The question I've got, and they asked this on Monday Night Football as well, Rod, is Jamie Vardy Leicester's best ever player?
Oh, I think without a doubt, just his contribution and what he's meant to the team. I mean, he's got them up on numerous occasions. He's kept them up on numerous occasions. They won the FA Cup. I think he had major contribution. I think he certainly is the most consistent and significant player they've had in a long time. You know, and you know, I mean, I'm going back on the match stats here and. You know, Tottenham dominated that game for a long time.
James Maddison, I was really impressed with. I mean, we know he suffered with injuries last season, but I was really impressed with him in the midfield. I think the overlapping runs on the left hand side that Doggy were making him and those two linking up, Son up front, you can tell they're still trying to get used to not having that sort of sit back mentality that we've had in the last few years. I think Ange Postecoglou bringing in a couple of new more signs. I think the Aussie will be hoping to bring 1 or 2 more through the door before the end of the season, but. As much as I've been tipping Tottenham to get top 4, I don't want to judge it off that performance alone, but
not too early.
They're not going to be getting that, I don't think.
Do you know, I'm just looking at a stat here. There were 31,977 at the King Power Stadium on Monday night. Now, for me, and maybe it's just me, I would have squeezed an odd 23 in, just a nice around 32,000. It's quite good. I would have squeezed them in somehow. Right, can we go back and talk a little bit about around the other leagues? Maybe we should just start off with our own Alty, because having made a good start in the opening weekend, a more difficult game on Saturday, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was a 5-0 loss away from home to Sutton. I want to know on what happened with Sutton's social media sort of controversy before the game. So Sutton United's media team sent out what I presume is a group of students going around Sutton city centre and basically saying, has anyone heard of Altrincham? No one can pronounce it. No one cares about them. So I quote tweeted this tweet on Twitter, and I had a few Sutton fans reply to me and say, we're embarrassed of our club for doing this because it was so disrespectful to not just the club of Altrincham Football Club, but the town, the community, the team that we have. And I think it's a real low that you see in teams try and push a rivalry that's not there just to sell a few more tickets. I think that's really, I mean, don't get me wrong, those people that have gone through the door would have seen a brilliant performance from the home side. But that's not the way to go about it. And I think Altrincham handled it perfectly by not replying to it at all.
I didn't know about that. That is disappointing. It's
It
like,
really is. But onto the performance, it was disappointing, wasn't it? 5-0. But Sutton have just come down from League Two. You know,
mm,
they are EFL opposition. They will be up there come the end of the year. So, you look at them and go, if I mean I said this to you off air, didn't I? We won last night against Maidenhead, 1-0 away from home. If you'd have told me that we have won 1-0 at Sutton but lost 5-0 at Maidenhead, I'd have been a hell of a lot more worried than losing 5-0 to Sutton and winning last night.
well, that game last night, that win last night away is hugely important because it's so easy for a team getting, and let's face it, 5-0 is a thrashing, right?
Yeah, just 72 hours later.
To come back and win 1-0 and it was 36-minute goal from Jones and held out. I think
That's a James Jones that didn't play a minute last year and had to, and as much as he was the club captain last year, he didn't play a minute due to injury, and he had to gain his place back in the first team squad by a trial in pre-season. So credit to James Jones for being brilliant assist by Elliot Osborne there as well. So, excited to see what Phil Parkinson's team can do this season.
yeah, and good to see Aldi, bouncing back because that was. I saw that result come in. I didn't hear it on Saturday. By the way, Alti's games are all on RadioAlty with Radio Robbins live.
And I want to note on something else that's going to be coming up at the 1st of September. We've got the Women's FA Cup first round qualifying match, Altrincham FC versus Macclesfield at Moss Lane. If you
Okay.
catch the soundtrack to sport this week, you'll be able to catch Alex Hilton-Steele, women's team manager, and vice captain Grace McArdle featuring on the soundtrack to sport to talk all things both of their careers so far,
Yeah.
and that big clash at Moss Lane on the 1st of September.
Excellent. Soundtrack of sport, 12 o'clock every Saturday, right here exclusively on Radio Alty. Around the rest of the leagues, I mean, I can never remember all the results, but Burnley had a big result on Saturday.
Burnley have been brilliant at the start of this season. I mean, Scott Parker at the helm. We know what he can do. He's taken Bournemouth up before. They got 5-0, and they got 5-0 in the first game, and then they thrashed Luton as well, as far from there, 4-1, 5-1 in the first game of the season as well. So, brilliant for Scott Parker, and it wouldn't surprise me if they go and win the league this season. I mean, the squad that they have should be winning the league. I mean, you look at them and Leeds as the two top dogs, I think, to go up next year.
Not all of the Northwest teams did well. Preston got a bit of a thrashing at Swansea City 3-0, and Stoke City lost at Watford by the same margin as well. Going into League One, just having a quick look down. Blackpool 3-0 away lost to Stockport County. Good result that for Stockport, wasn't it?
And that's Stockport, who've just come off two back-to-back promotions. They obviously before last season, and they're going to be looking to go up again, aren't they?
They're on a march, aren't they? Burton Albion got I guess, a heroic draw at Mansfield Town 3-3. Wigan lost away at Reading. That's a tough one. Coming back from Reading when you lost 2-0. I mean, it's still 2-0. It's a tough one. Into English Football League 2, just quickly, 3-3 Accrington Stanley Harrogate Town. That would have been a good game. Salford City drew with Bradford City 0-0. And I guess, a draw away from home isn't too bad unless you're really pressing for promotion, is it? That's it. What else has got you Monday night? Was there any other fixtures that got you, Tom?
I mean, looking around the Premier League, I think is the big one, isn't it? I mean, I want to note on Brighton, which we've already done. We've noted on Ipswich, but I mean, we've noted on Leicester as well. I think you're just looking around the league to see who's impressed you the most, isn't it? And we were talking about manager and player to watch. The managers you're looking at all the new boys, aren't you? You're looking at all the 3 promoted teams, Russell Martin, Kieran McKenna. You're looking at those 2 in particular from the promoted teams of what they're going to do this year. And then Steve Cooper, we know what he can do in the Premier League, don't we? He did it with Forest for 2.5 years. So, we know what they're about. You're looking at the new managers coming in. You're looking at Lopetegui at West Ham. This is the one that confuses me because the signings that West Ham have made, as much as they're brilliant signings, they're David Moyes signings. And they're David Moyes signings for the Julian Lopetegui era.
Yeah.
Is a little bit confusing because the style of play under Julian Lopetegui might be a little bit more expansive than a David Moyes team, but you need to be making signings that contribute towards that. Julian Lopetegui consistently does play with the big man up front. He really likes that, and you can see why Nicholas Fulham's come in. But you did see that they missed that big focal point in front. I mean, Antonio's past it now, realistically. I mean, bringing Danny Ings off the bench in 2024, what are you doing? So, it's all over the place, isn't it? I mean,
So
you're looking at the other matches.
you would basically see Lopetegui's got a lot of work to do then.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still think they can be up there towards the end of the season at 6th, 7th, 8th position. But there's a lot of teams fighting for there, and the Premier League's the toughest league in the world. No match is an easy game, is it? So he needs to get his ideas together quickly. That's not saying he can be sacked anytime soon because I don't think he will. But I just think for where West Ham belong, they need to sort of kick on a little bit more than they did last year.
What about Hasta La Vista, Arnie Slot?
I am quite impressed.
Are you?
He is one of I'm I was gonna say I'm impressed by the way he speaks. I think he's a very articulate man who just says it how it is.
Yeah.
That's what Liverpool need. They need that Jurgen Klopp. I'll say it how it is, and I don't care how it sounds. You saw his post-match interview. He came out and basically said the first half was awful.
Yeah.
Second half was brilliant. That's what he said. And he basically told them at half time, he hooked the young lad off at half time, didn't he? And I think that's the difference with Liverpool this season. Jurgen Klopp, there's a narrative that he was scared to make subs at times. Arnie Slot, first game of the season, kicking off with taking the youngster off at half time. He's not scared.
Well, I've written here, good change of pace of play in the second half, and they shifted the pressure back onto
Oh, there was a tactical change, wasn't there? Is Iwongo, I think is his name. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. He was marking Trent out of the game completely in Ipswich's midfield. And you see, as soon as he gets subbed off, Arnie Slot at half time makes the change to move Trent onto sort of that wide up far right position, sort of playing as a right midfielder, sort of Beckham territory really is where he was playing, and shifting Van Dijk across. Whereas in the first half, it was very more compact. Ipswich were really pressing, and Liverpool seemed a little bit cagey at times. You saw the pass that Trent played for Salah was world class, wasn't it? I mean, if I'm a Liverpool fan, which I'm not, I'd be very worried. What's going to happen with Trent Alexander-Arnold? He's got a year left on his contract. In 3-4 months' time, he could be signing a free to Real Madrid.
Hey man, but you got to say, it was a bit like Liverpool continuing on, and very systematic, if you like. On the reverse, Kieran McKenna, first game in the Premier League, I actually thought it's a tough draw, right? Them in your first game, and I thought actually could have been a lot worse for them. So you would take that as an Ipswich fan 2-0 to Liverpool, and I thought actually probably not the worst start for him.
No, they look, they've not had Premier League football in a very, very long time up there. And I don't think they've ever been in the Premier League as far as I'm aware. I think you're looking at Div 1 times. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're a European caliber team. They've won a European trophy. Let's not forget that. The thing about me is the hype with Ipswich it's strange. Because Ed Sheeran, don't get me wrong, he's just below pitch, what is it, 1.4, 2.4% of the club. The cameras were more on him than they were on the players. It wouldn't surprise me if there's a lot. I think there's a lot more hype on Ipswich because of the back-to-back promotions, and I think they need to just dull that out, sound it out, to get things going.
But they will over time. And Fabian Hertzseller, have I pronounced that right? The Brighton Hope album, but a very comfortable start for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about him just before, haven't we? I think he's very, very exciting, isn't he? I mean, you get a young manager. He reminds me of when Julian Nagelsmann first broke through in Germany. I think I'm really interested to see what the sequels do this season.
He's the youngest manager ever for Brighton. What is he?
He's the youngest ever manager in the Premier League, full stop, at 31 years old. So
where did he come from?
He came from St. Pauli, which is they were last season in the second division in Germany. well, he got them promoted back to the Bundesliga for the first time, and I think I want to say 60 years or something. So, he was brilliant last year in Germany, and I think this year it's promising, very, very promising.
And in terms of player watching, I know we're probably focusing a bit more on the Premier League just because you get to see more of that. But anybody catch your eye over the weekend?
I've already mentioned Minter. I think he was brilliant for Brighton. I think you're looking at Arsenal. You're thinking, why is Calafiori being on the bench? I'm interested what happens with him this season. I think you look at the likes of Southampton. Can Bembra and Diaz get them going in that front line? Manchester City, I was really impressed with Savinho on the wing. I think you're seeing a City style of play that is sort of from 7 years ago in a sense of that front three of Aguero, Sane, and Sterling. You've got Haaland, Doku, and Savinho, really pacey, really direct front three, which is different. I mean, Pep seems to change his tactics every year, doesn't he? And the tactics that I saw against Chelsea make Man City exciting to watch. They're never usually exciting to watch. It's usually boring, pass it around the box and bore the other team's death. This season, even if they don't win the league, Manchester City fans can still, don't get me wrong, they'll still be happy anyway because they will win one trophy. That's just fact. They will do. They can be really excited with the start of play as well.
Yeah, and I've written down here that Sangari, the Forest defender, I was quite impressed with him. He's very dominant and good look going forward. As we talked about, Mazararu, the new United right back, was the same.
Yeah, he was brilliant for Forest. And you look at Crystal Palace and go, they were missing a Sangari player that they have in their own in Decore. They were missing him in the team for the game, and I think that's one of the reasons why there was a sort of like a hole in midfield because Walker and Hughes both really drifted wide. Whereas you look at Nottingham Forest team or Bournemouth team, and they were really compact, really narrow, sort of proper like we're towards the bottom of the table. Let's fight this out and scrap it properly, rather than try and play tiki taka play out from the back.
Amadou Alana, who does he play for? He got a debut goal over the weekend.
Yeah, for Aston Villa. So he moved from Aston Villa. He moved to Aston Villa from Everton, and that's seen Everton spend some big money on their midfield. Which, don't get me wrong, their midfield looks a hell of a lot different than last year, but it looks better. I think it will come to fruition that it is better. I'm not saying that Everton's new midfielder isn't better than Amadou Onana, but he certainly performed at the weekend. They are missing that right back though. I mean, Patterson consistently gets injured. Seamus Coleman's 45 now or something. He's way past it. I mean, don't get me wrong, in my opinion, he's the best value for money Premier League signing ever at £60,000. But you can't be going into the 24-25 season with Seamus Coleman at right back.
No, that's not good. And it's come back to United, and I got to say that Xerxes goal for a lot of reasons. Just the way he took it, the time of the goal, he wasn't on. I don't think he didn't start, did he?
No, he came off the bench I think he came off the bench in the 60th, 70th minute. And I was surprised that he didn't start, to be honest. I really was. I mean, I was surprised that we went with this sort of split striker false nine formation with a block box in midfield. But I'm not opposed to it. I'm definitely not opposed to it. And it gives the team a completely different style of play that can still win games without a number nine. Which, when you've got the injury record that Højlund had last year and he missed a couple games here and there, Xerxes does have a little bit of an injury record here and there. So, you're looking at both of those and going, we can play without you. Don't get me wrong, I love Højlund. I'd love to start Højlund every week. I love him as a player.
Yeah.
But United can definitely win games without them now.
Yeah, and there's a bit more strength and depth. You can see that actually when you see the bench is looking a bit better. And between the sticks, I've written down Onana's kicking was poor again. I mean, I've written here, what was he working on over the summer?
I mean, I always think his distribution is pretty good, to be honest. I don't see I don't understand the really, really big hype around him with his footwork, but I think he's what you get in the Premier League. I mean, he's a goalkeeper who's very comfortable on the ball. I mean, he's going to take risks. I mean, he definitely gives you a heart attack every now and again, but what Premier League goalkeeper doesn't?
I guess.
I'm not. Don't get me wrong. Every goalkeeper is going to kick one or two a little bit too far, isn't he? But I'm more than happy because he's a very big, vast improvement on David De Gea's kicking.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. And maybe I'm being overtly critical, but I thought also Raya for Arsenal.
Yeah, he was brilliant, wasn't he? I mean, the Spaniard, he's now signed for Arsenal permanently. Last year, he was only on loan from Brentford. And it signalled the exit of Aaron Ramsdale, which is imminent towards the end of the window. I mean, Southampton and Wolves both looking at him to come in, but it's a strange one, isn't it? The goalkeeper situation under Mikel Arteta.
Now, in terms of the officials over the weekend, and we are focusing on the Premier League, it was a soft pen for Villa. I've written down here. I don't know how many VAR decisions there were, but it felt to me, just looking, and to be honest, I was watching Match of the Day and a few other bits and pieces. It didn't feel like there was that many VAR instances. I don't know if there was.
I think Brighton got lucky. In a sense, Everton had a penalty overruled with Calvert-Lewin. Don't sort of dragging Calvert-Lewin's out, but it definitely wasn't enough for a penalty. So Brighton got away with that one a little bit. And then you're looking at sort of the refereeing decisions. The Newcastle Southampton game were awful. I think they were the pick of the bunch to go. This needs work still. But I look at the City game. I think the referee was very good in that game. And then I had nothing to complain about for any of the game. It's mainly for me just the Newcastle Southampton game that
Well,
caught my eye with the referee's decisions.
I've got Diaz as drama queen of the weekend because he definitely teased that red card.
That's gonna be a new title every week. That drama queen of the weekend.
Drama queen of the weekend. That definitely was Diaz for Southampton. Right. So this transfers. I mean, we've talked about Gundogan going back to City, quite remarkable. I was talking to you off air about Lindelof not moving on. So I've read somewhere, and it's one of the broadsheets or one of the papers, that United would like to move Lindelof on. He's got a year left in his contract, and he's not for moving at the moment. He's digging in, and you assume he's digging in because he can go on a free, whatever. We need him probably to move him on for fair play reasons, etc., etc. But I would like to see him gone, to be honest with you.
I think he will go toward by the end of the window. It really won't surprise me if he does. I think Ineos are very smart with the way they're doing business, getting rid of Wan-Bissaka before the end of his contract, and they'll look to do the same with Lindelof, won't they? It wouldn't surprise me if he moves for sort of a fee of 10, 15 million. But I want to notice on Ineos is they're only asking for 20, 30 million for McTominay. Elliot Anderson from Newcastle's just gone to Forest for 35 million. To me, McTominay's a far superior option in midfield than him. So why you can't be selling McTominay to Fulham for 20 mil when players like that are going for 35.
I saw a photograph of McTominay with his, I assume it's his wife today, and the scene looked very much like it was an Italian villa, and I was wondering.
There's the Napoli move on the horizon for him as well, isn't there? Just as you were speaking, then Rod, Chelsea have just officially confirmed the signing of João Felix. So that is confirmed now for today. Gundogan has already had the here we go. So I mean, he'll literally just fly over to Manchester and move back into his old house, won't he? Realistically.
Yeah, he just shake down the dust and move back.
Yeah, just get the duster and the Hoover out, and it'll be fine. But apart from that, I mean, you're looking at sort of transfers for in and out of the league. There's not many. Manchester United still in talks with Agate. Don't get me wrong, Liverpool are the big one where they've not signed anybody yet. So, you're looking at every team there and thinking every team in the league could do with one more signing. Every team in the league could do with one. It's just who can do that, who can get them through the door, isn't it?
Just talking about transfers, obviously the Saudis have been a market for players towards the end of their contracts, and they go on big deals, and they have been pulling back their purse strings a little bit. Do you think they have? And if they have, do you know why?
I don't know if they have. I just think it might not be more publicized because it's kind of it's kind of become the norm now, hasn't it? If players move in that way, I see the attraction, but don't see the attraction is the financial gain, isn't it? From going to Saudi, that's what the attraction is. It's the lifestyle of living in these big Dubai mansions and these big penthouses with a hell of a lot more cash in the pocket. But I don't think they would have cut down much. I think it's just they're making more astute, smaller name signings that can help grow the league, and they're doing it properly rather than bringing all the old heads that'll kick a ball for 2 years and then bugger off again.
Okay, let's look forward to the fixtures at the weekend. It starts off with Saturday lunchtime, United down at Brighton Hove Albion.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I'm at this point I can't go there again this year. I was there down at the Amex at the end of last season. It was a brilliant away day.
Did we lose that game?
No, we won 2-0. It was the game just before the FA Cup final. the week before, and there was the old speculation of Ten Hag being sacked in the
Yeah.
whole Manchester United away and sang his name for 90 plus minutes.
It's
So I'm
actually
very, very happy with that performance. 3 o'clock, Manchester City at home to Ipswich. Kieran McKenna's really not got the look of the draw of the first two games, has he? You've got to feel sorry for him. I mean, that's one for you FPL nerds, just like me, that Haaland or Doku, De Bruyne, you're looking at a captain in him. Is Foden going to come back in the starting 11 for that? Who knows? Tottenham at home to Everton. That's a tricky one, isn't it, for Tottenham? Another stumbling block.
and
Fulham Leicester at Craven Cottage. That's a really good game for Leicester as well to really kick off their season again. I mean, 1 point on the opening day is not too far off from what they'll have wanted. So if they pick up 3 points there, is the 5,000 to 1 Premier League winners for Leicester going to happen again? No, it is not. I can say that now, but who knows? Southampton Forest. I mean, Southampton getting a good game and a bad game in a sense here. They're at home, so first home game of the season at St Mary's for them. But at the same time, a Nottingham Forest team that are very, very exciting to watch at times, in glimpses, you can say. Crystal Palace, West Ham, the weird London derby that's not a London derby at Selhurst Park there. I mean, you're looking for Crystal Palace to bounce back after that defeat to Brentford. The big one on Saturday night, Aston Villa versus Arsenal. This is the game where Arsenal slipped up last year to not win the title. Mikel Arteta's going to want to right in the wrong, isn't he? You're looking at Sunday, you're looking at Pedro Neto straight away going back to his old stomping ground in Wolverhampton Wanderers. Can Chelsea get a result there with João Felix new signing and in the starting 11? Only time will tell. Bournemouth Newcastle at 2 o'clock, and then Liverpool Brentford at 4:30 on Sunday at Anfield. And that pretty much wraps it up. There's no Monday Night Football next week, and we've got no Friday Night Football either. So it seems to be a very congested Saturday, 3 o'clock after.
It's almost old fashioned, isn't it? And just quickly looking at what Alty have got on over the weekend, looking at the English National League. Alty are at home to Eastleigh, 3 o'clock. That'll be live and exclusive on your RadioAlty with the Radio Robins commentary team. Are you doing that one at all?
I am not sure yet, actually. No, I'm not too sure yet, but I'll be looking to get down to Jay. I'm always looking down to get to Alty, aren't I? I mean, it's a brilliant little atmosphere at Alty. We get a good crowd in, and it's a good atmosphere when it gets going.
And the Latics are on the march. They're heading to Aldershot Town the weekend as well. It should be another great weekend of football, and you can hear the Saturday soundtrack the sport on.
Oh, there you go, Rod. There you go. Spot on.
I'm 12 o'clock. What do you got on the show this week?
Oh, we went through before, didn't we? We've got the Alty women's manager, Alty women's vice captain, and we'll be doing the same old talk on. I'll be looking at ones to watch over the weekend. I'm going to give you some advice on certain people's FPL teams because some people don't know how to play the game.
There you go. And that's what you get on RadioAlty Sport all the way. Tom, I will be away in Scotland next week, and so we'll be back in 2 weeks' time.
See you then.
Take care. Bye-bye.